are alternating. So this week, the free show is going to be the Dave Show. And suffice to say, I'm not going to read shout-outs on the Dave Show.
That is a tragedy.
So we're getting a long, thick list of shout-outs, and we'll read them on all the free shows, and we'll get through them in about 65 years, and that's all fine, everybody. As I noted last week, do not send time-sensitive shout-outs anymore. All right. This is from... What am I doing? This is Night of the Champions.
Right.
This is from Sunday night. All right. Miz and Morrison against Finlay and Hornswoggle for the tag team titles was a fun match. I would not mind seeing this match 1,000 times.
Yes.
Finlay worked most of it. Hornswoggle actually got cut off and was a fantastic small dude in peril.
I know, it's hard to believe.
Yeah. The children were going nuts for this little fucker. And finally, Fit made this awesome comeback, running and flying and doing top rope drop kicks and all sorts of shit that a 50-year-old guy shouldn't be doing. And then hit the Celtic Cross, tagged in Hornswoggle, but then the heels threw Fit outside, and Morrison threw the midget off the top rope, which I guess because he's a midget, it was a tragic bump, and he was pinned, and I give this a thumbs up.
He was pinned with a top rope slam, yes.
Yeah.
The same bump Ric Flair took in every match for decades.
Indeed.
But yes, as noted, I have no problem seeing this match on every show for the rest of the year, really.
Yeah.
It was great. Hornswoggle, he's got a lot of stuff. He's got a great charisma, and he did this wacky lucharific comeback that worked. That Miz and Hornswoggle did awesome lucha spots.
Yeah.
Think about that.
He was like a mini.
He
mini
was.
Finlay.
It was perfect.
Finlaycito, he should have been
Yes.
called. Fitcito. We had Matt Hardy and Chavo for the U.S. title, a perfectly fine little grappling match right here. SmackDown announcers called both the first two matches, so Mike Adamle must really suck.
Yeah. Matt Hardy's on ECW.
Yeah.
Chavo's on ECW.
Yeah.
The SmackDown guys called this.
Yeah.
Draft, everybody.
So, Bam Neely interfered, and typical back-and-forth little match, and anyway, Matt hit some goofy moves again that you would not expect to be the finish, but the people did. And finally, Chavo went for the rolling vertical suplexes, and Matt hit a twist of fate out of nowhere for the clean pin, and good pro wrestling action. Thumbs up!
You liked it more than I did. It was fine. There's nothing terribly wrong with it. I just don't care about Chavo Guerrero at all anymore.
Chavo was better than usual here. He was more aggressive.
But this was a TV match, slightly longer than usual. I didn't have a clean finish. Like I see nothing wrong with it. I didn't feel ripped off or anything. But a mild thumbs up.
We had the Kane versus Big Show versus Mark Henry Monster Mash 2 battle. This was a bad match.
But
let me explain what happened here. Kane got thrown outside and whacked his back on the apron, and he went down. And he was needed in this match, and he could not be used, and thus the Big Show and Mark Henry had to call the match in the ring. It was so horrible, yet so great.
yes,
They did headlocks. My God, you should have fucking seen Mark Henry's headlock.
he's not.
Mark Henry clearly has not done a standing headlock in at least 12 years since he began training.
Yes, probably since he was in Memphis or wherever he was getting schooled on how to wrestle.
He would have been laughed out of any training school in the U.S. And there's some bad schools, don't get me wrong. So they did a bunch of high spots called in the ring, which were just so hideous.
Most of which were like, hit a tackle.
Yep. Then there was a spot where I guess they both called a clothesline, and Henry just took a bump, and it was horrible. And finally, they sent out Geeks to tend to Kane, and he sent him to the back, and finally he sort of regained whatever was out, or I don't know what happened, and he made a giant running comeback, which was further proof that he was really hurt, because I guess he was trying to prove how tough he was. Whereas if this were a fake injury, he would have sold like a motherfucker coming back. But he came back, and he went nuts, and the place went crazy, because they were like, thank God Kane's back!
His first move after being down with what appeared to be a crippling back injury was his top rope clothesline.
Yeah. So anyway, they did a bunch of stuff there at the end. Henry was down, and finally Show went up top. Kane gave him a superplex, and then suddenly Mark Henry flew through the air with a big splash on Kane for the pin. The finish was cool. I got to give you that. And until Monday night, I have never seen a man so happy to have won a version of the world title. This gets a thumbs down and a thumbs up.
Well, for me, it gets 2 solid thumbs up. I loved this. It was spectacle. It was giant men lumbering around the ring, shouting at each other, blowing spots. This I enjoyed much more than Matt and Chavo. This was fun.
It was one...
And the finish was really awesome. Legit awesome.
It actually was a great finish. So then we had the a generic girl interviewing Batista. Cena walked up, and CM Punk walked up, and noted he could challenge for the belt at any time. And I thought, sure you will, buddy.
You like the story.
Bob Holly and Cody against Ted DiBiase Jr. and the Mystery Partner. Ted has a new song, which is the epitome of lame.
I think it was actually different on Raw. But they're not going to use Ted DiBiase's $1 Million Man music. Why? I guess because it's too old. So instead, they have ripped off a Pink Floyd song that is a decade older.
Yeah. This was lame. So anyway, he came out and he said, "My partner's not here. Can we wait 10 minutes?"
I was kind of hoping they would say sure and pull up chairs.
Sure. So anyway, they said no. And he said, "Well, fine. I'll wrestle now and he'll be here in a minute." And then, of course, he said, "I want Bob to start." And Bob foolishly said, "Okay."
Dumb redneck.
He is a dumb redneck. And he tagged in. He was immediately kicked in the abdomen by his partner. Cody Rhodes gave him a DDT. They pinned him. So now Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr. are the new tag team champions of Raw. And it sucks to be Bob.
So let it be known that Cody Rhodes won and lost this match.
Yeah.
That may be a first.
I'm sure they did in WCW.
That's actually probably true.
Well, he may not have been in the match. He was Ted's partner. So
he was also Bob's partner.
No, maybe he just merely accompanied Bob to the ring.
If this is real...
This would never have happened, Vince.
Well, there's never been any contract.
It's not real.
I am just saying that Cody won and lost.
If this were real...
He won the title from himself.
Sure. All those boxing matches with mystery opponents too, Vinny, if this were real. We had...
You wouldn't see a guy box himself?
Bradshaw do an interview, which was just a way to get heat. It was so damn boring.
He said he's going to win a belt. Yeehaw.
Blah, 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 blah.
This time has so come and gone.
We had Jericho versus the mystery opponent, where he cut a promo burying Michaels and this and that, talked about how he'd wrestled with a herniated disc, broken arm, missed anniversaries, holidays, kids' birthdays. And anyway, the mystery opponent was Kofi Kingston, who, of course, JBL had killed on Monday. Mm-hmm. And he ran wild. Nobody really cared. There was even a chant of boring. And then somehow he made his big comeback, and Jericho bumped all over the place, and the people got into it. And Shawn came out, super kicked... Lance, I wrote Cage. Oh, well. Jumped on the apron. Jericho bumped him off, and Shawn took a stomach-first bump off the apron to the floor on his bad knees. This fucking guy. This was a highlight of the show, by the way, athletically. Anyway, so then Jericho turned around to the Enziguri for the pin, and Kofi Kingston, the new Intercontinental Champion. The place did go nuts for the finish, and I was sitting there thinking, I hope they do something with him on Raw, and we'll get to that in a while.
Shortly, but yeah, so... At this point, with the pro in the match, it made it clear, okay, so the reason Kofi lost to JBL was because now he and JBL are going to feud for this Intercontinental strap. Because JBL said he wants gold, now Kofi has gold. That's still not a good reason for JBL to have beat him, especially not the way he did.
Yeah.
He squashed him.
Gets worse, everybody, but we'll get to that in a minute.
So yeah, this did not justify the JBL match, is what I'm saying.
So Shawn was selling like nuts, and Jericho went after him, and they called down a bunch of geeks to separate them. And then Jericho still gave him a cheap shot right to the bad eye. That fucking ruled.
Wasn't that awesome? Did I not tell you the great thing about this eye injury was going to be all it will take is one forearm, people will go crazy?
Yeah.
That was great. Yes.
We had a skit with Edge, Vicky, and the wedding planner that he's going to fuck. And the Edge dudes walked in. And
Miss Fuck should be her name.
She should be. Ms. Fuck. So the Edge dudes walked in and insinuated that, too bad you and Hunter don't get along because he could have helped you out this evening. And Edge was insulted that they would think that he would need their help. And anyway, trouble in paradise.
He didn't like the Edge heads.
He didn't like the...
Edge hates the Edge heads part 1.
So then we had Mickie James and Katie Lee for the WWE title. Pretty good match by women's standards. Fans had no idea what to make of it. And Mickie hit her in the gut and hit the implant DDT for the pin. That to me made no sense, but what can you do?
The match was fine. I think this is Katie Lee's actual first time wrestling on TV. Not counting the times it was like Katie and Paul versus Super Crazy.
Sure.
So it was the first time to really see what she could do, and she's fine, but I don't think the crowd, for all intents and purposes, it was the first time they'd seen her, and so they were not into her.
You mean all intensive purposes, Vince?
That's wrong.
Edge and Batista for the world title. This was actually a pretty goddamn good match. Batista was working his ass off, and Edge was as well. And Edge, of course, got the heat and beat on him for a while. And Dave actually went up top at one point and got drop kicked. Anyway, Vicky came out near the edge, or near the end with the Edge Geeks, and Edge went for a spear. Dave leapfrogged him. He hit the post. He made the cover, and of course Vicky jumped out of her wheelchair and pulled the ref out of the ring, and the ref told her to leave. And as he was counting Edge out, Edge pulled the ref out of the ring and beat him up. So Vicky demanded another ref, who ended up being Chavo, who already had a ref shirt on, so it was collusion. And as Chavo was coming out, Dave just finally said, enough of this BS. He grabbed Vicky. He dragged her to the ring. Everybody was just outside looking stupid.
All the heels were saying, stop.
Stop, Dave.
Dave, put her down.
So anyway, he did. He picked her up overhead and threw her onto him. And then he turned around, and Edge flew out of nowhere with a belt shot to the face, and Chavo counted the pin. So, yes, SmackDown title, still on SmackDown.
Never to leave.
Never to leave.
Up to this point, this pay-per-view had been thumbs in the middle, leaning down. Nothing was terrible, but nothing was really terribly exciting. And the last two matches really turned it up several notches. This was fantastic. Dave has great matches. I know it's hard to believe. He has great matches with Undertaker and great matches with Edge. Connection, of course, being those two guys are both really awesome. But yes, this was fun, and it's been a fun feud.
So I thought for sure that meant that Triple H was going to lose the title to Cena.
Surely they couldn't have both belts on one show.
No, I thought that, they're building up that Hunter couldn't beat Cena 2 years ago, and I thought, well, maybe, he still can't beat him.
Maybe he'll be the one guy.
We'll have a storyline where Hunter's quest is to beat John Cena, perhaps at a WrestleMania down the road. Nope, just beat him here. They had a hell of a match, though. They had a great match. Hunter was orange. I think that's the major story of this match. And we also had some funny signs and some great wrestling. Hunter sold his knee for a while. Both of them, actually. He kind of couldn't decide which one at first and did a bunch of spots. Cena went for the FU. Hunter slipped out, hit a pedigree. Cena, of course, kicked out, and then Cena hit the FU, and Hunter kicked out. We had the boo and the yay chants as they exchanged punches. They did a spot where Cena could not hit Can You See Me? But on the third attempt,
yes,
he finally saw him.
They built up to the five-knuckle shuffle.
That's right.
It was fantastic.
So Hunter got the ropes, and Cena pulled him back to the middle and tried again, and Hunter switched to the crossface, and Cena herked him up in an FU position, which would have been a great finish, but then Hunter dropped behind and hit the pedigree for the pin. So SmackDown, as of the time that the show had ended, had both belts. And great match, great way to end the show. Thumbs up to Night of the Champions because of those last two matches.
Yeah, there's not much that really made this stand out from other great WWE main events who had all the trademarks, teased finishes.
It was not, in fact, epic. I will not remember this like I remember Hogan slamming Andre the Giant.
No, John Cena was definitely a liar when he said we would remember this forever.
Yeah.
It was not a great moment. No. It was a great match, but it had all teased finishes, countered finishes, long submission spots that were possible finishes, but guys finally struggled and got the ropes. It was every great match we had seen before, which is fine. So yes, the last two matches saved the show. SmackDown had two champions. Raw had one, and it was Kofi Kingston. And ECW had two, and they were Mark Henry and Matt Hardy. So apparently your initials must be MH to be a champion on ECW, but that was the end of Night of Champions.
What?
Mark Henry, Matt Hardy are the champions on ECW.
Wow.
Yeah. I just noticed that, and because I'm a nerd, I had to point it out.
I remember in the early 90s, Mr. Perfect came out on Primetime Wrestling, and he beat a jobber in like 10 seconds with the Perfect Plex, and then he cut a promo because he was going to defend his Intercontinental title against Bret Hart at SummerSlam, and he just cut a promo, and he said, on Sunday, you will see the greatest match you've ever seen. And he, of course, was injured going to this, but we weren't supposed to know that. And then Sunday came, and, well, obviously there have been better matches in history. I'll never forget that match. And I've watched that match again, and god damn is that match great. And that's an example where he was right.
Mm-hmm.
Cena was not right. I didn't even remember the WrestleMania match. And I would bet that in about 6 months, I will have forgotten this match even occurred.
Funny thing is, I ain't forgetting Raw. Raw had moments.